The Chronologically Gaming pre-show, where we play every video game in order of release. We do not shy away from certain video games or certain systems, certain consoles. We definitely play every single console that's available. This is the pre-show, where you're welcome to ask any questions. This is part of a sound check, sound test. We are a real live show. There is no AI slop. I am not an artificially intelligent thing. I am not a robot, at least not yet. And this is the only show that I know of that is attempting to play and see every single video game in order of release that they came out. Howdy, Brad. Welcome in. Great to see everybody here for the live show. This is going to be a really fun one if you're a Star Trek fan. So show of hands, how many are Star Trek fans, especially if you think of the time that this is. If we're going to December 1982 and we've seen every video game up to this point, this game is very, very special. And we might even have a little surprise as well. We always have some surprise because not everyone knows exactly which video games were released. Hey, Brian, welcome in. This is a real life show, real live show. There is no AI. It's all real. I'm really here doing this live, subjecting myself to every single video game, seeing if they'll load or crash. We still have sometimes it happens because there is still, even now, using emulation, trying to see everything on all home computers, everything on all consoles, handhelds. There's always going to be sometimes that just things do not go well. Just imagine if I was doing this all on real hardware, how many more crashes and how many problems we'd have with things going down or going out. It would be crazy hard. Welcome in, everyone. If you are just now tuning in, you have a lot of catching up to do. There's over 1,400 videos on YouTube of us going from game to game to game in order of release. We're currently in December 1982. That's right, Paul. Yes, not intelligent being, but yeah, I'm not artificial. I'm real. I'm a real person doing a real live show. Maybe sometime in the future, it'll be like near the end, my consciousness will be transferred so I can keep playing all the video games, you know, is it the 90s or then beyond the 90s? Every now and then there are some younger people, younger gamers that when they say retro, the scope of retro is so large. The scope it's incredible. But there's some younger gamers that tell me, "Are you going to play you know, really old games like Fortnite?" And I'm like, "No." I'll probably never get that far. We're in true retro territory now. And you bet, Brian, I don't think there's any AI anywhere on this show. I'm trying to think if we've generated anything using AI. No, everything you see here, like these are the videos that you see in the background or where we pull information. A lot of this is from MU Movies or from Launchbox forums or Hyperspin or other front ends that have made these videos public, so it's all here. Whoa, that's cool news, Brian. That's modern news. Vectrex Mini crowdfunded. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm with you there, Paul. 1986. I think I can do that. Yeah. So I'm still in 1982. I've been there for a while, but our cadence for the show has slowed down just a little bit because of going from game to game and honestly doing the organizing and categorizing all the video games so that we can get all the information right. Because when I play them, I'm going over all the notes taken from everything we've seen up to this point, and a lot of times I forget. So I write everything down for what kind of games we've seen, what gameplay and genres of video games, all that stuff. So that actually takes the longest now to make sure that I have all the information for all the games correct. But as we go through, I'm just going to be able to have hopefully the most information that anyone's ever seen for all games, just because we've popped it in, played it, and saw what it was like. But it's been a lot of fun. Will I ever get to 1986? I'm actually really excited for 1983, just to be able to get there. When we finish 1983, it might be several years. All right, showtime. Hey, it's Chronologically Gaming, the only channel that's perpetually retro because we're playing every video game in order of release. We started all the way back in 1971 and we played game by game by game, and here we are currently in the beginning of December 1982. What video games were you playing? And we were last playing the latest release on the Vectrex. Let's see what our next video game is. We're going to play more games on home consoles. This is the Emerson Arcadia 2001, and we're going to see Spiders. We originally saw Spiders in 1981 by Sigma Enterprises. Only in 1981 can you get away with an arcade game called just one word, Spiders. This is once again a fabrication of the box. I really wish people would upload all the images and all the artwork they can for this console. It doesn't get a lot of love, but we'll take what we can get. This is most likely taken from the cartridge that has been scanned, and then they blew it up and turned it into an Emerson Arcadia 2001 box. Oh, it says that on the bottom left, or bottom right, a licensed arcade game. That's right. This is the first and only official port of Spiders at home, at least to my knowledge, or at least so far. You flip it over the back and you can see it's not even a real box. Where's the real scans? Bring them on. What other artwork do we have for Spiders? This video game is only available on the Emerson Arcadia 2001, except in the arcade. It's the 41st game we've seen for this home console, and it's available in other regions in Europe. It's on the Hanimex, the Tunix, and the Schmid, which means even though this originally was in the arcades in Japan, it's not available for the Bandai Arcadia in Japan. It is available on the Emerson, right here on the left side. You can see the Emerson Arcadia 2001 system itself. It's got the number pad. It reminds me of old school classic gaming. I mean, telephones are still popular right now. Bring on the number pads, right? There's a real scan. That is the actual cartridge for Spiders on the Emerson Arcadia 2001. It is sci-fi blasting spiders. So cool. With an example of the screenshot. Yes, Paul, given the games we've seen so far, I can understand why there's not a lot of love for this one. Let's see the manual for Spiders. Hey, there's a scan. The Tunix fans scan the manual. Thanks, Tunix fans. All three of you. How do you play Spiders? Well, it first tells us what you're supposed to do with the overlay. It really doesn't do a whole lot if you have the overlay. But whenever you have a number pad, overlays do help. Definitely if you're playing on the Intellivision. It shows the object of the game. The game is all about spiders. They're webs and cocoons. You have 4 rockets to fight against them. The object of the game is for your rockets to shoot as many spiders before they land. You get points for each spider shot down. However, if the spider lands, a bar is built up on your base. When the bars are built up all the way across, your rocket will explode. If a spider impacts your rocket, it will also explode. You have to wipe out all the red cocoons by first shooting off the webs, which are located in front of cocoons, and then shoot the bonus spider, which appears right after the cocoons have been wiped out. Pretty standard. I can understand how it works. This breaks down the various levels and scenes in the game. We have 8 different levels, a few different scenes, and what you're going to see on the way. For player controls, it's a one-player game only, single player only. The Emerson Arcadia 2001 knows you are a nerd and has no friends. You'll be playing by yourself. The scoring points is right here for cocoons and spiders. You get bonus spiders if you get the last one, and you get more points the longer you keep going. You can also freeze the game. They don't say pause on the Arcadia 2001 using the other controller. Explains how to start the game, and then it has a very terrible screenshot, but this manual scan is not really the best. Has some other features like the demo mode if you want, or the attract mode if you will. We kind of have the idea. We played lots of games like this. Let's pop in that cartridge and see what Spiders is all about. Developed by UA Limited, published by Emerson in the beginning of December 1982. This one is interesting because this system is trying to compete with the other consoles that are available right now, but we haven't seen a killer app, a really good one. I mean, look, with the first boot up, look at the attract mode. It's just flashing through the different colors, and it's not as impressive. And granted, this is the only official port of this. The Arcadia has picked up arcade games that other consoles didn't get the license for, so you are getting kind of a rare treat because it's the only way you could play this officially at home, but there's plenty of other games that have, ripped this stuff off. Spiders thrust players into a high-tension battle against waves of monstrous space arachnids bent on turning your rocket ship into their next meal. Emerging from ominous red cocoons that drift menacingly onto the screen, these alien spiders descend with deadly precision. A single hit from one of their falling cocoons, or worse, the spiders themselves will obliterate your ship in a flash. Let one land, though, and the creatures begin weaving a shimmering web across the stars, tightening their trap until escape is impossible. The first experience I have with the game is nothing's happening. My controller doesn't do anything. And that's because you have to plug in the second port to play the game. And once I plug in the second port, I died again. Let me reset. Press the start. And now I can play. So now the controller works. I'm foiled yet again that it uses the right port to play the game. Everyone should know by now that if you're playing a video game, the left port is the first player port. This should be a law, but I don't think there is any laws for this. There really needs to be. Because we're in the anything goes era of gaming. Anyone can do whatever they want to do. So you blew up all the red cocoons, and then there it is. The final spider. Can we take it out? No. At least I don't think I took it out. So you only get the bonus points, but then the spider just crawls away. So you essentially need to take out all those cocoons as you move around the screen. So armed with only with your rocket's laser cannon, you'll have to shoot down cocoons before they hatch, destroy the spiders before they crawl too far, and dodge red laser blasts that pierce the screen every 2 seconds. Each wave brings a deadlier swarm, more cocoons, more spiders, and a faster, fiercer assault. By the final stage, you'll be battling a full infestation, 23 red cocoons, 8 raging spiders, and a storm of missiles and laser fire. So in a way, this is a faithful port of the 1981 Sigma arcade classic. Spiders captures all the frantic energy of the original with chunky, colorful graphics and responsive controls. Sort of responsive. It has 8 difficulty levels that let players choose their challenge, from a light skirmish to a full-blown spider apocalypse. It's a test of reflexes, nerves, and your ability to keep calm while surrounded by 8-legged terror in deep space. So if your idea of fun involves blasting cosmic insects before they devour you, then this is the game for you. So as control-wise, it's as tight as this console can deliver, and it's pretty simple. You're just moving left and right. I do notice when I go to the left, I boost. I have this little upward boost. I don't remember that when we played this in the arcades. But we've seen plenty of games like this before. This is a fixed shooter, a shoot 'em up, but it's still a fixed shooter. It's the 416th fixed shooter we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. This is the 56th fixed shooter we've seen on all home consoles at this so far. And it's the 8th fixed shooter we've seen for this home console, after Astro Invader, Space Vultures, Alien Invaders, Space Attack, The End, Parachuter, and Galaxian. And speaking of Galaxian, right now the only official Galaxian that you could be playing is a Galaxian that we saw in the arcade. Galaga is part of the Galaxian series. There's Galaxian that's official on the Atari home computer, the Atari 5200 home console we've already seen, and the Sword M5 home computer. We already had a game over. So we call this a variant of Galaxian, and there's a lot of more games that you could be playing because the variants of Galaxian are so much. This is the 85th variant of Galaxian we've seen, and that's across all systems. It's the 8th variant of Galaxian we've seen on home consoles right now. So this already has a lot of competition. There was Galaxian that we saw on the Epoch Cassette Vision. There's Galactic Invasion, which is an unofficial Galaxian on the Bally Astrocade. There's also Condor Attack and Phoenix on the Atari 2600. And on the Arcadia, it already has its fair share of Galaxian variants. There's Space Attack and Galaxian, because the Galaxian that was on this console wasn't real. They just called it Galaxian, like on the Epoch Cassette Vision. So as far as spiders in video games, I think it was part of this. This got popular because of the craze of Centipede. We've seen frogs and spiders in the arcade. We've seen Spiders of Mars on the Commodore VIC-20. We've seen Spider Raid on the Apple II, Spider Invasion on the Atari home computer, and the Commodore VIC-20. Everyone loves insect-style game. Oh, don't tell me I'm going to miss again. Yeah, there we go. I got it. So if you look in the top left, it's keeping a temporary high score as we move on. the sound in this game is, honestly, this console doesn't deliver as well as some of the other home consoles. It also didn't have anything like the voice module that the Intellivision or the Odyssey 2 have. So when I listen to the sounds of the game, they're doing the best they can for this only home port, but it's not doing justice. I'm sure most people have already turned off this live stream just because the cacophonous sound of music that's going through. Oh, there's one of the new attacks. I forget what they're called. The moving left, homing in shot. Those were really dangerous when we saw them in the arcades. So this is very similar to Space Invaders because as they get closer and closer, it's similar to Galaxian, but it's also similar to Space Invaders because the enemy attacker is getting closer and closer to the bottom of the screen, just in a different way as Space Invaders. Compared to the arcade port, there is a few differences. This is blockier and chunkier because they had to bring it to this home console. But the tracking missile that you saw, or the super web, I believe is what they called it in the arcade. There it is, that one right there. It's not the same. It's not the same tracking that we saw in the arcades. Plus, the way that the webs were building up in the arcades was a little more impressive than here on the home console. If you look down at the bottom, there's the spiders that are, when they reach the bottom, it ends up filling the whole bottom of the screen. There's also one big difference that's missing from the arcade. The arcade had, after you finish several scenes, you would get a static picture, like as a reward. One of the pictures was the Mona Lisa, which is very, very weird, but there apparently was other static pictures that would make you want to keep going to see a picture. Imagine that as the motivation to play the game. I'll be able to see a picture, but this lacks that. There is no picture, so you're essentially just going in a classic arcade gaming loop over and over and over again just to see what your high score could be. We're hitting over 3,000, which is actually pretty cool. And this is not quite as tight as the arcade version. I know moving left to right, how tight can it be, but it was better in the arcades. It also does have turbo fire. As I'm playing the game, you can just hold down the fire button and it shoots. So this is great, rockin', killing, and then go for the last spider. Let's see if I can get him. Nope, I think I missed him. And then every level just increases in difficulty, like we've seen with plenty of other games. This game cartridge is 4 kilobytes, which means it's 4 kilopower. They did all this arcade port, on the same size as most of the games we've seen on the Atari 2600. Right now, some of the best fixed shooters you could play across all home consoles, just to put in perspective, is on the Atari 2600. You can play Space Invaders, which is way better than this game. Demon Attack is out right now. Turmoil, Communist Mutants from Space, Cosmic Arc, Commando Raid, Encounter at L5, Mega Mania, Carnival, Demons to Diamonds, Gorf, Puyan, Threshold. All that's on the Atari 2600 right now. On the Intellivision, you got fixed shooters like Demon Attack. You can even play on the Creative Vision Sonic Invader. So even though this is a faithful port, at least for right now, of the only port you can play, it still isn't impressive compared to the other shooters you could be playing across all other home consoles at this point. All right, so there you go. That's a quick taste of Spiders. We're on a pretty good roll for a high score. Looking over in the chat, I see actually Paul throwing out 3.5 stars for this console, and we've seen that before, just rating based on this console only. But we were against every console you could play right now in December 1982. And Charlie's saying 3 stars, which is pretty average for all the games you could play up to this point. So that's actually being pretty generous. 2.5, maybe 3 from Brian. Brad saying 3 is fine, 3.5 for the top 5. Yeah, it actually is pretty good for the Emerson Arcadia 2001. But considering the other shooters that we've seen across all other home consoles, Spiders does not really deliver. It's also not as enjoyable as the arcade. And when this came out, there were so many Galaxian variants and Space Invaders variants out there that it kind of got flushed away, and I can understand why. I'm not going to be as kind. I think I saw some 2.5. Yeah, there's some 2.5s, but I'm going to go 2.5 stars for Spiders. Of all the games you could play right now across all home consoles, it's still average, but there is better games that you could play. All right, after that, what's our next video game? Speaking of the Atari 2600, let's see the newest video game.
I've been comparing the exciting new Intellivision space game Star
It's George
Strike
Plimpton
with one of the most popular Atari games, Asteroid. Star Strike
Oh,
has
he's
moving images that make the game
comparing
appear
it to
three-dimensional.
asteroids. That's kind of a low
Asteroids
blow.
doesn't.
Yeah, look at
And
that.
Star Strike features our most
Actually
exciting
wasn't that
visual
impressed
effect.
with
Total
either
destruction of a planet.
video game. Oh yeah,
This is
total
what the other game
total
offers,
annihilation of a
which is why,
planet.
after Star Strike, asteroids left me rather flat. Star Strike, new for Intellivision from Mattel Electronics.
All right, there you go. That is the commercial for the Intellivision version. We're going to play the latest release. This is the port for the Atari 2600, and it's Star Strike. Here's the box for Star Strike. Now that one, if it left him flat, what's this game going to do to us? This we originally saw on the Intellivision December 1981, so it's 1 year later, give or take a few months. This is the 195th game that we've seen on the Atari 2600. Originally made by APH Technology Consulting, this one is by Mattel Electronics. It's part of their series called the M Network series of games. Sci-fi box, Star Strike. Let's flip it over the back. Really big screenshot on the back. 1 player, 4 skill levels. Star Strike cartridge. It has 1 joystick, saying it's a 1-player game. So it tells you most of what you need to know on the box. What other artwork do we have for Star Strike? This is the 65th video game that we've seen that Mattel Electronics has had anything to do with. They've done 42 games on the Intellivision, and this is the 10th video game part of their Atari M Network series. So they're taking video games that the Intellivision did, and they're porting them over to the more successful home console, the Atari 2600. So besides the box, we have the catalog page that you would have seen at the time with other M Network games. And I think we've seen most of them. Okay, I think we saw Super Challenge. I thought we've seen all the Super Challenge games, but there it is. Lock and Chase we've seen, Astro Blast, Dark Cavern. They've all come from the Intellivision to your Atari. And kind of like the Activision games, you can even be the patch or get a patch or a sticker. It looks more like here. If you get the high score. There is the cartridge for the M Network games. It looks pretty funky and weird. Most of the other titles for the Atari that are not first party, they try to do their own thing. And same with Mattel. All right, here's the manual for Star Strike. Tell us how to play. This one was done by David Akers, the very first video game we've ever seen by David Akers. Way to go, David, up to this point. It's a 1-player game only because Mattel knows you're a nerd and has no friends, so you're going to play by yourself. It's a spectacular planetary adventure. Destroy the alien space station before Earth passes directly over the launch trench. Shoot down alien defenders stalking you, bomb 8 missile silos, or Earth will be destroyed. Good luck and good hunting. It is a classic space game, or it feels that way. When we saw this originally, we got to do the show with Chris Alimo from Classic Gaming Quarterly. Or wait, was it? No, it was the Intellivision version. That was with John D'Elia from RetroWare TV. John D'Elia was the one we got to play this game with when we originally saw it on the Intellivision. It shows the screenshot and describes everything. Hey, that's the Earth up there. For controllers, you just need your 1 joystick, 1 red button. It explains what the controls are. Move up, forward, and back. Press the fire button to shoot lasers when you're above the laser trench. Press to drop bombs when you are inside the trench. Oh, okay, so depending on where your ship is how the shot works. I think they did it. Yeah, they did it differently on the Intellivision. They had a lot more buttons because of that number pad. They break down the difficulty switches here. You can do position A or B. The faster the game, the more difficult it is to fight the alien defenders. You have to bomb all 8 missile silos, and there's the difficulty switches. Still using them here in December 1982. That's pretty cool. To start the game, press the reset switch, as you do with all Atari games. I like the grid background. They're still bringing the grid, and I want to keep the grid going. It makes me feel like it's the 80s. After Tron, everything's cooler with grids. Alien ships attacking, blue lasers. Use your red fire button on your joystick is your air-to-air laser trigger. And then they show you the vanishing point on this screen. So this is a very well done M Network manual. It has screenshots explaining what everything is. Lots of text, and even gives you some tips and tricks on how to play. There's the winning tips right here. Be sure to turn your game unit off when not in use. Oh, I like leaving my game unit on. And then we have the limited warranty. All right, thanks Mattel Electronics, making video games. For other versions, we have the PAL regions, and then a hack Star Wars The Battle of Alderaan. We're going to play the first. Let's pop in that cartridge and see what Star Strike is like on the Atari 2600 in the beginning of December 1982. It starts off and, wow, we're in. Wait, the game begins and I didn't hit reset. It just started the game. And I think I had game over. Yeah, it's going through this track mode. Can I do anything with the joystick now? I know it shows the total annihilation of a planet. Oh, it wasn't impressive, though, as the Intellivision. The Intellivision explosion had shrapnel and pieces flying around. That was not as impressive. All right, so let's push reset again. All right, so controls are absolute. And when I move the joystick left and right, it's not like I'm flying or trying to simulate flying a ship. We've seen a few games on joystick controlled with the Atari that do that, where when you go up, it actually brings the ship down, but this one doesn't do that. The shadow down at the bottom is different than the Intellivision. It's actually better, but as far as the way the game's moving and controlling, it doesn't feel as smooth or as impressive as some of the other titles we've seen. Oh yeah, that's right. I can't shoot when they're behind. I gotta wait till they come in front. So if I move over on the trench, I can fire shots. Oh, I think I'm blown up. Yep. My controls are reversed. If you get hit too many times, the ship actually freaks out and your controls are backwards. And so you have to maneuver and survive, and then now I'm back to normal. So now I can readjust. So it actually is really wonky if you get smacked. But there you go. Whenever the ship turns a lighter shade of blue, they move in front of you, and then you can shoot them. Or if you move down in the trench, you can see I can bomb when you move down low. So stay up high, and you'll fire forward shots just like this. So self-explanatory, but it really is more impressive when you see the screenshots of the game. Now I understand why the marketing blew... Oh, I got hit again. I understand why the marketing blew the screenshots up is because it looks really good static, but whenever you play the game, it doesn't play very well. And I can see why we didn't rate it as high when we saw it on the Intellivision. It's just very rare to see a video game, or more rare to see it from this perspective. We call these video games trench run shooters after, you guessed it, Star Wars. This is the 11th trench run shooter style video game that we've played on Chronologically Gaming. After games like Starhawk and Space Encounters that we've seen in the arcade, we also saw Starfighter and Torpedo Run on the Commodore PET. We've seen Stellar Wars on the TRS-80. We've seen Attack on the Death Star on the Atari home computer, and Advanced Star Trench Warfare, and The Force on the Coco. This is only the third trench run shooter we've seen across all home consoles. The original Star Strike on the Intellivision was the other one, and then Star Battle is another one we've seen for the Bally Astrocade. So the cool perspective, which we call behind view, it's kind of what's selling this. This is the 25th video game that we've seen with a behind view perspective. It's very rare where you're behind your ship or behind your car. We played games like Astro Fantasia and Rougian that do this perspective in the arcade. We've also seen Space Raider and Buck Rogers in the arcade. And at home, there's a game called Baja Buggies that we've seen on the Atari home computer. There's Hyper Chase that's on the Vectrex, Turbo that's on the ColecoVision, and Zaxxon on the Atari 2600. That's at home. So there's really not a whole lot of games that look this way. So in one way, you could be like, wow, this is the coolest game because of the perspective. But gameplay, it really is not as impressive. It looks the part. And there's not a lot of games that are... the only official Star Wars that we've seen at home wasn't doing trench run. It was doing like a Defender-style game that we saw with Empire Strikes Back. So if you want to play something that's Star Wars like you're in the trench, I want to be able to... You can bomb too. Oh man, they come and dive bomb. You got to fire really fast. The other thing to consider is I'm just probably not just very good with this. And that's where my complaint is. I haven't... Whenever I play this... get into the groove and don't have as much fun with other shooters or shoot-em-ups that you could be playing at the time. So maybe it's because I suck, and that's why I say I don't do very well on it. We also call these games chase view auto-scrolling games. It just continues to move on. It's a Star Wars fan game, which is kind of cool, inspired by movies. It still has a classic arcade gaming loop, and the cartridge size is 4 kilobytes. 4 kilopower. But you got to admit, this is a little bit more impressive than the one we saw on the Arcadia. But even still, because of the gameplay, I actually would say maybe I had a little bit more fun with spiders than this one, but it is graphically more impressive. It's also very silent in space. That's true. Paul, I haven't even tried bombing the port. That bottom where you see the scroll happening, there's continue to comes by. You want to be able to bomb the port down at the bottom when it comes to in view. I'll just avoid them while they're dark blue now, and there it was. See, I missed the port. But yeah, a good shout out, Paul. That's another part of it. There it is. And the screen shakes like that. I think it was better on the Intellivision. So the ports we've seen on the M Network, not all of them hit very well. Some of the ports are well done. This one is lacking. It was much better on the Intellivision, and there's sometimes that the Intellivision version is so much better than the Atari 2600 version. This one's competent. It's all right. Hey, welcome Retro Gamer Gen X. It's December 1982. What video games are you playing? Well, we're playing Star Strike, first ported to the Atari 2600. And similar to the first Star Strike, I'm not as impressed. It could be better. I guess there's better video games you could be playing besides this one. All right, there's our taste of what Star Strike was like first time to play. So what would you rate it? Of all the games you could play across all home consoles, what is Star Strike for you? Do you call this game broken compared to everything on all home consoles? Then you'd rate it somewhere around the 1-star range. If you think the game's bad, you rate it somewhere in the 2-star range. If you think it's about average for everything you could play on all home consoles, it's about the 3-star range. And then if it's above average or excellent, you rate it somewhere in the 4-star range. But if you think this is one of the best games you could play across all home consoles, you'd rate it somewhere in the 5-star range. I got Paul throwing out a 2.5 to 3-star rating. Brad saying 2.5, kind of dull. I'm in the 2.5 rating for there too. James is saying 3 stars. Charlie 3 stars. Yeah, that's true. I actually would go 2 just because I'm not as impressed with the game, but because of the perspective and how rare it is, I'm gonna go 2.5 stars for Star Strike. So again, still fairly average for everything you could play across all home consoles. But granted, it might just be because my skill level just don't get into it as well as the other shooters or the score attack games. And Retro Gamer saying 2.5. Hey, 2.5 as well. All right, after that game, what's our next video game release? Going game by game by game. Oh my gosh, it's Star Trek in the arcades. Can you imagine going to the arcades right now and you're a Star Trek fan and seeing this game for the very first time? Well, that's what we're going to do. Here it is in all its glory. Introducing Star Trek. The fantastic popularity of Star Trek is now an arcade video game happening. Star Trek is hot. See your authorized Sega distributor now. Yes, I will. This is also known as Strategic Operations Simulator. A simulator in an arcade? I'll take it. This marks the 645th arcade game we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. Just imagine that's how many arcade games are available in the wild to play. There is tons. Boldly go where no arcade has gone before. They really did the marketing so well on this one. This marks the very first game we've seen that Paramount Pictures Corporation has had anything to do with. This is real Star Trek. This is official. This is licensed Star Trek. Along with the Fonz video game and Buck Rogers' Planet of Zoom, this is one of the very first licensed video games developed by Sega. At this point, Star Trek is in the movies. There's the motion picture that we saw in 1979, and right now in 1982 in the summer was when Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan came out. Star Trek is so hot. At this point on Chronologically Gaming, we've seen 71 Star Trek video games that are based on the strategy mainframe game, and we've seen 78 Star Trek fan games. At this point, though, this is only the second official Star Trek game in the series. The only other game we've seen that's been official Star Trek was the Star Trek Phaser Strike handheld on the Milton Bradley Microvision. So a real Star Trek, official Star Trek, this is only the second video game. It's very, very rare to get official Star Trek. There is no limit to the amount of Star Trek you could be playing on home computers, though, right now. They're all over the place. I love the back of this advertisement. You got Mom in the captain's chair. I think she looks a little confused playing Star Trek, but then look down to the bottom right. That kid looks terrified, like Star Trek's coming to eat him. Maybe he's not a Star Trek fan. There's the example of the upright cabinet for Star Trek. Looks great. Artwork is amazing. And of all the games we've seen up to this point, I mentioned the games that were called Star Trek or play like Star Trek. There's also plenty of sci-fi space games that have ripped off Star Trek and the ships since the beginning of time. And official Star Trek, it's time you had its due. Oh, there we go. And everyone in the chat's talking about the ports. There's a lot of ports we're going to see in 1983 for this one. And this is the one that I didn't know existed. This is the Captain's Chair or cockpit version of Star Trek Strategic Operations Simulator. Looks awesome. I wonder if William Shatner ever got a chance to sit in the captain's chair, or that captain's chair. There's the example of the arcade PCB. This is Sega Enterprise's 45th video game that we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. And that's not Sega Gremlin. Sega Gremlin, we've seen 22 games that they've done up to this point. The only game that Sega right now, or Sega Gremlin, has done at home was Carnival. Everything else that they've done has been in the arcades. So right now, Sega is super hot, obviously, in the arcades. But we've seen on the Atari 2600, Sega was involved with Zaxxon at home. And at home, on the ColecoVision, you could be playing Zaxxon or Turbo. This is Sega's 41st game we've seen in the arcades thus far, bringing us really good titles like Monaco GP, 005 or 005. Borderline and Samurai and games like that. Take a look at this control panel. The controls is a spinner on the left side. So an analog like spinner on the left, and then you have all the buttons for warping, photons, thrust, and fire. I guess you could say the buttons are similar to the controls as asteroids. Yeah, there we go. There's a breakdown of the controls. How do you play Star Trek? There's the arcade marquee. Everything is awesome. If I was a Star Trek fan, I'd be freaking out right now, and I am, to be able to play it this far. So we have the manual, the official owner's manual for Star Trek, manufactured by Sega. Take a look at the copyright, 1983. There are some sources that say that this was released January 1983, but by 1982, December 1982, at least some trade shows had this to play. So you could say that this isn't the true commercial release, but we're going to call this the first release, or first time you could play Star Trek. Oh, man. Yeah, and Sega tells us it's a microprocessor video game, yada, yada, yada. Explains how to plug it in, make sure you inspect it, get all the parts. Did they say anything about the concept? There we go. It's a 1 or 2 player color XY video game or vector video game with computerized speech synthesis. The player finds himself the captain of the Starship Enterprise, his mission being to rid the universe of a number of threats to the United Federation of Planets. Star Trek has a unique method of displaying the information vital to gameplay. This method involves the separation of the CRT into 3 completely separate screens. So you have 3 screens on one. There's the scanner screen, which is the top-down or plan view of local space, with the Enterprise always in the center of the screen. The viewer is where the player sees apparent 3D images. Apparent 3D? That's interesting they said that. As if we were looking out the ship's front window. The status screen displays player score in addition to shield strength, number of photon torpedoes, and the amount of warp energy remaining. I'm already excited just reading the manual. The game begins introducing Klingons, starbases, and the Enterprise into the scanner with an exciting shrink-down animation sequence. The Enterprise starts with 1 to 4 shields and photon torpedoes. By the way, this experience of reading a manual isn't going to be everybody's. This is more like the operator, someone getting ready to set up their Star Trek system in the laundromat or the arcade. In order to destroy enemies, the player may use either 2 weapons, phasers with the fire button, or photon torpedoes, each which has unique properties, and it breaks them down. The Enterprise is surrounded by an automatic shield, protecting the Enterprise from enemy fire and collisions. There is so much here. Usually the manuals for video games in the arcades are not this extensive. Look what it's going through. It's going to repairing, docking. The primary enemy is the Klingon battle cruiser. You got red, purple, and white Klingons. Wow, white Klingons, sometimes known as maniac Klingons, move very quickly in an attempt to ram the Enterprise. There's antimatter saucers appearing randomly in a confusing fashion. And after a number of rounds, the player advances to the Nomad round. In this sequence, Nomad zips around the screen, depositing dangerous mines. The mines cause chain reactions which should be avoided. Nomad can only be destroyed with phasers. Once Nomad's delivered its total load of 30 mines, it waits for the last mine to detonate, leaves the screen, and ends the round. And then it breaks down all the scores here. You got to know what the score is in December 1982. Very, very exciting. And then there's the option dip switch settings that you can make there. We are not going to get into that much technicality, but we also have the comprehensive guide at winning. Star Trek by Dino T. Manzella. It breaks down everything about the game. So while the manual had just the specifics of what things were, this is essentially a guide telling you how to win or how to beat everything in the game. Very, very helpful. So if you want to pause the screen, if you're in the arcade right now and you're watching Chronologically Gaming and you want to know how to beat the game, this is it. You can just get all the information you need here. All the best strategies, kill the red Klingons first. That's a really good one. Make sure you do that. And then it shows you how to dock at the bases, firing photon torpedoes at a group of Klingons, killing saucers, and then how to kill the Nomad. So really helpful stuff. I don't think they had that exactly in 1982, but there's also a Defender bootleg version, but we're not going to see that one. Let's go to the arcades and see Star Trek, released by Sega in the beginning of December 1982. This is Sam Palahniuk, I believe. First video game we've ever seen by Sam. Wow. So take it all in. This is everything you'd see described around the CRT before you play. It shows a breakdown in the top left of the monitor, and it tells you how to play. Defend star bases from Klingons, dock with star bases to continually store up additional supplies, and repair damage. Supply readout indicates when shield, photons, and warp drive are dangerously low. It shows you the captain's controls and what they do. Lots of information for an arcade game. You are the captain of the Starship Enterprise. Your mission is to seek out and destroy Nomad while avoiding its deadly mines. Beware of the elusive antimatter saucer. Defend star bases from red Klingons. Dock the starbase with star bases to dock the Enterprise with star bases to replenish supplies and repair damage. Shields engage automatically when depleted. Damage is incurred when the Enterprise is hit without its shield. When damaged, the Enterprise loses ship function to this order. It's shields, then photons, then warp drive. The next hit will destroy the Enterprise and end the strategic operations simulation. And then it breaks down the different things that you'll see. It's pretty cool. And I like this track mode. There's no sound, but it's kind of playing parts or showing you. Very helpful. I remember going to the arcade and just checking out the attract modes. This one's really, really impressive. Also, notice the left side is showing like shield, photons, and warp. So this is what you'd see around the whole screen. I'm going to zoom this in and go to where we can see it much better. And we'll still see. Ooh. I'm already hooked. Wow, that's so good. We've heard that ditty on home computers quite a few times, but that sounds really nice. And the presentation with Sega is fantastic.
Star Trek.
Wow, was that Leonard Nimoy? It's like robot Leonard Nimoy. I don't know if we heard that one before. So I already put a coin in. And this one is hot seat multiplayer in the arcade. So if you have more people, you can play, but you just have to take turns. It'll be pretty much the same experience I'm going to show tonight. Ready and go.
Welcome aboard, Captain.
Wow. Ta-da! That sounded like it was 2001: A Space Odyssey. Oh, okay, so I'll get my controls straight. So the spinner is able to move my ship left and right. If you look in the top right of the screen, it's a top-down view of the Enterprise. And I'm looking there now as I move left and right, and I'm holding down just thrust. So the Enterprise is just cruising along, impulse power, and then you can see the screen has some Klingons represented by triangles. Where'd the base go? Did I lose it already? Or did they blow it up? I don't think so. Or maybe there's not a base? They turned into the deadly white Klingon. So I'm just flying around, familiarizing myself with the controls. When I look down at the bottom of the screen, it appears like I'm flying through space, but actually I can only move left and right. So I'm only using one plane of existence to fire. Okay, there we go. Let's take care of this red Klingon. Nope, missing there. And then we can go just secure the sector there, and then move on to the next one. Wow, presentation's through the charts. It's a very different experience. This feels high tech, like the Wave of the Future, something new. I'm just loving the whole experience. Nope, don't blow up my base. Let's go ahead and dock with it. You can see in the top left, that's where your shield photon. They're going to bring our shield back up. Only by 1 though. Not cool. I think we just blew it up. Yep, there it goes. So now we've lost some of our systems because the shields are gone.
Entering sector 1.4.
Now we're 1.4. Wow. I need to use that dock because the farther you get, there's eventually going to be no docking station.
1.5.
Oh, I almost had to. You see the other ship? There's another hidden one.
Damage repaired, sir.
Thank you. Move on. Can we get it? Oh, I missed it. Can we dock again? No. Wow.
Entering sector 1.6.
There's also so much happening on the screen compared to other games we've seen right now because the other Star Trek games, majority of them, are strategy. And this one is so much action. It's like the... Oh, I didn't destroy the red Klingon. Compared to the other games, this is like what we wanted to experience at home with a Star Trek game all along. And there's the simulation complete. We got a high score. Do we get to put it in? Oh, did not make it? I didn't make it high enough? No way, not even close. Look at the other high scores. You have to be high enough to be able to be on the top screen. All right, so let's go in again. Yeah, this is exactly Palpuck. It's Mr. Speak and Spock. I love it. I am highly impressed. Seeing this in the arcades is amazing. Let's put another coin in. I imagine the lines to play this game, and someone else is going to be next. So we call these video games vehicular combat, space combat games. Essentially, it's not trying to do a full simulation of flying through space, but it's essentially you're moving a cursor around and shooting at stuff as if you were in space. Oh, I need to hurry up and take care of that guy. This marks the 40th video game that has been a space combat video game. Just straight space combat, not true simulation like simulating flying in space. Just, it's a shooter, essentially. And this is the 5th video game that's been a space combat style game we've seen so far on Chronologically Gaming. The others have been Starship 1 a long time ago, Starfire and Starfire 2 by Exidy, and Space Seeker. Usually when we see these video games at home, they're combined with strategy games. Think of games like Star Raiders and of that nature. So to play just straight space combat that's more arcade or shooter is actually more rare. I also would consider this game a vehicular simulation, but it's not really simulating flying through space like you would with games similar to Star Raiders, because I don't have the freedom to move the joystick as if I'm flying in space. It's just moving left and right. So in a way, it kind of reminds me, at least the bottom screen, like Battlezone. It's a virtual world, but you only have one plane that you're able to move around. I'm only able to move left and right. Oh, I need to go over to that red. Yeah, he's coming at the space. Come back here, you! And then move on to the next sector. There's a lot more happening with Battlezone, but you can understand the similarity. You know, the vector graphics. Battlezone, you actually have an overlay to make it green. This one... Yeah, I need to repair that. Move on to the next one. Man, but this is so fun. So much action. I love it. Let's get the shields up more. Nope. Blew off another one. And then sector secure there. That's great. This still has the classic arcade gaming loot. Keep on going. Go for the high score. It's got 3D wireframe graphics, which are really, really nice. Let's see if we can survive. Whoa, we made it. We're doing pretty good. A 47,000 score. Let's get over to the base quick, dock it, get some more shields. Because whenever we played these as strategy games, the goal was to destroy Klingons, but it was a very different experience, even though it was real-time strategy. Most of them are real-time strategy. This one, destroying Klingons, is a blast. This is incredible. And it feels more like simulation than anything else we've seen. Quick. Woof, that's tight. This is the 41st video game we played that is using vector graphics. The 31st video game we've seen in the arcades that's using vector graphics. Everything else that we played has been at home on the Vectrex. And there it is, simulation complete. Some of the really good vector-based video games you could play in the arcades have been Black Widow, Gravitar, Space Duel, Boxing Bugs, and Tempest. And this video game is using the Sega G80 board. And it's not the first time we've seen this board used, and it's not used just for vector-based games. The Sega G80 board can be considered a successor to the Vic Dual system, and it was Sega's arcade platform of choice before they released the Sega System 1, which is going to be really cool when we see that one. We're really close, actually, to seeing that system, that board. Some of the other games we've seen on this Sega board have been Space Fury, Eliminator, TaxScan, and Zektor. All those examples are vector-based graphics, but they've done other ones that have been raster too. The spinner control on this, and you can see when I'm playing the game, the emulation is a little tricky, but my left and right movement is a little jerked. But spinner control is not new to the channel either. This is the 14th video game that we've seen that is utilizing a spinner, sometimes with joystick. This one's just spinner and buttons. The other really popular one has been Tempest, but also a vector game that we've seen, that it was Boxing Bugs that did the same control using a spinner. That we mentioned earlier, but there's also Moon War that's available. You could be playing with a... Let me dock first, actually. Oh, it won't let me do it? Okay. Moon War is also using a spinner. Victory is another game you could play that uses a spinner. Frontline uses the spinner, and then another way to control it as well. Cosmic Cruiser is another arcade game we saw that uses a spinner, and then more recently, Dark Planet. This is obviously inspired by the TV series of games. I don't think this has anything to do with the movies we've seen. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with Star Trek the Motion Picture or Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. Uh-oh, not looking good. Woo! Should have gone for the dock first.
Entering sector 1.6.
So you understand a little bit more of how it works. Let's see if we can get a dock here. Nope, I missed it. Dock with that one. Come on, build them up. You can see everything on the top left raising up. Wow, I'm already seeing Brian throw out 5 stars of all the games you could play right now in the arcades. 5 stars already. We got a 4.5 from James.
Entering sector 2.1.
Yeah, that's right. It was... Oh, here we go. This is really, really exciting. You can see on the screen the... Where's my photon, by the way? We got the... I realized I was just doing thrust and phasers, but you also have the photon torpedoes as well. This perspective that we're playing the game is also very unique. It's a first-person perspective on one take, and then it's also a top-down perspective. You could call it your mini-map or your radar, but most games that we've played at this point have both perspectives, but they have them at different times during the game. Like when you played a Calibeth or Ultima, they had a first-person perspective and a top-down perspective, but you know it went back and forth. They weren't at the same time. Empire 1 and Empire 2 also had a top-down and a first-person perspective, but they weren't at the same time. Sands of Mars did that as well. Space Seeker that we saw in the arcades, same thing. Tunnels of Doom on the Texas Instruments home computer. Poltergeist, which is another licensed game, on the Coco also had a first-person perspective and a top-down, but you know it wasn't at the same time. There is some examples of video games we have played that have had they've had the first-person perspective and a top-down perspective at the same time, and that was Prisoner 2 and Spectre that we saw on Spectre was by Datamose, but they were on the Apple II. This, though, is the very first time we've played a video game that is scrolling 2D, like freely scrolling 2D, and 3D scrolling at the same time. Unless you consider that small radar on Battlezone, this one is the very first game that's doing this, and it's doing it very well. This feels, look at that, 1982 copyright. It feels like the future. And there we go, we got another rating. Charlie's throwing out 5 stars of all the games you could play in the arcade right now. It's so much fun. I really think that is supposed to be Leonard Nimoy that's doing the synthesis, the voice synthesis. It's really good. We already mentioned that this game is very, very popular, obviously. Where's my, there's my photon torpedoes. We gotta blow some of the Klingons up with that. And you can see on the radar, it shows the spread. Thank you. It is not logical to not like this game. So cool. So this is the beginning. We will see lots and lots of ports of this Star Trek game on lots of home computers and systems. Of all the games you could play across every game in the arcade right now in December 1982, Star Trek is fantastic. Did anyone rate it in the chat lower than 4 stars? I don't think anyone said 4 stars. We got 5s. 4.5 from James, 5 for sure from Brad, 5 from Charlie, solid 5. Now, even if you're not a Star Trek fan, you can't deny the action and how well this game is, and how original too. The idea that they turned in the strategy elements that we saw with all the Star Trek titles into this really fast, fun action video game. So I'm going to go, because of the rarity of this viewpoint in the game, the color vector graphics, and just how this is so good. For all the games you could play in the arcades, I got to go 5 stars for Star Trek. There is not much like this, and it's something I would want to stay in the arcade and play over and over again. It feels like a true experience. It's a blast. Phantom Fiction's given it solid 5 as well. All right, after that video game, I sadly don't have the next title right now, so that means we have to call, based on the time, we got to say that's where we got to put our video game playing on pause. We have another game we were going to show, but we just ran out of time this episode. I want to give a big shout out to everybody that's here for the live show with me in December 1982. Having a blast seeing Star Trek. I mean, think of all the Star Trek we've seen and played. And I've bored you with strategy Star Trek games and all the fan games that people have made. And we did play the official Phaser Strike on the Milton Bradley Microvision, but this Star Trek is on a whole new level. It is so, so good. I also want to thank everyone that's joined the Chronologically Gaming Patreon. If you don't like us doing this show 1 time a week, or if you don't like that we had to cut the show for time, and if you want more games and you want to keep going game by game even faster, then support us on Patreon. Well, next time on Chronologically Gaming, another Vector game comes home to the Vectrex for the first time, and we have a special Vectrex game. There's also Super Cobra is going to come home officially to a home console. That's it for today, and like I always say, the arcade games are invading your house. Hey everybody, thanks for checking out the channel and joining me on my quest to play every single video game in order of release. We'll be streaming live every Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central, so join us and be a Chronologically Gaming influencer, rating the games as we play them. This video wouldn't be possible without Launchbox, RetroArch, and Main. Tell all your friends there's some crazy guy named Chronologically Gaming trying to play every video game. We have links down below that give more information on the games we played this episode, as well as our Discord and Patreon. There's a link called All the Games We Have Played. If you go there, it's a list of everything, and you can click right to the game you want to see. Chronologically Gaming is the name to look for. We are perpetually retro, and we will catch you next time.